In 1975, Emerson Cosateng of Mariwasa led the breakaway group of 9 teams and vaulted the Manila Industrial and Commercial Athletic Association, or MICAA, which was under the influence of the Basketball Association of the Philippines headed by Gonzalo Puyat, a big issue as it was back then. The breakaway group wanted to free themselves from the tight grip of the governing body who put the players on the national team without consulting with the team owners. The breakaway led to the founding of the Philippine Basketball Association, touted as the first pay-for-play league in Asia. The establishment of the league was itself innovative, for it laid down the rules that are different from the amateur rules they had in MICAA. Since then, the PBA has been leading the way in revolutionizing the game in the country, both in the way it is displayed and the way basketball has been packaged as a pop culture commodity. The PBA became a national pastime and an enduring institution of Pinoy pop culture up to this very day. Recently though, the league has been reluctant to adapt to changing times and situations. With internal problems and challenges from the outside, the league must implement reforms if it wants to stay relevant and remain as the prime hooper destination, as well as remain popular in the country. Hello guys, this is Chip of Game High, and in this third and final installment of our PBA special, we're going to have a run-through on the early years of the league and their innovations that led them to be the forerunners in the basketball scene. We're also going to talk about the league's seeming hesitation to be more out of the box and be contented and reactive to the changing circumstances. And also, lastly, we're going to talk about the emerging platforms in other leagues outside the country that may force the league to be creative, innovative, and responsive to what the fans are looking for. But before that, see to it that you like, share, and subscribe to be updated with the latest sports and gaming videos right here on Game High. It is ironic that lately the PBA has been slow to pursue changes, for the league has always been breaking new grounds and has its share of innovative leaders. The league was quick to adapt to changing times and was receptive to outside influences, mainly from the NBA. Innovations such as instituting the three-point line, a shot clock rule, and allowing players to show their wares in their international competitions were prime examples. The league adopted and implemented rules not just for the heck of it, but for the sake of the league, the players, and the fans in general. For instance, they let go of the no-harm, no-foul style of play when they realized that the intense physicality harmed the league more often than not and no longer generated the kind of excitement among fans. PBA league executives Leo Prieto Sr., Mariano Yenko, and Rodrigo Salud steered the league through growing pains and through difficult times of economic crisis and political turmoil, especially in the mid-80s when the league was in danger of folding up. The league provided relief, entertainment, and distraction for a public that is weary from the daily grind and national news. In turn, its position as the premier basketball league was solidified. As the 80s gave way to the 90s, the PBA was on a more solid footing. The following years saw some rules being changed and implemented. Time and again, these changes targeted player and rookie eligibility, import height and availability, and free agency rules depending on what the situation calls for. There were some innovations too, an example of which was when the PBA allowed Asian imports to play in the league less than a decade ago to prepare our very own players in international competition. The primary consideration for all of these was the welfare of the league as well as everyone, including the fans. But it seems that the PBA in recent years has become overly protective of its interests. It has been seemingly slow to adapt, even when it is so obvious that the situation calls for it. The league has come a long way from its humble beginnings, and many thought that it should add more teams owing to its reach and popularity. Longtime coach Yang Giao is one of the most ardent proponents of league expansion. A brilliant basketball mind with more than 4 decades of experience as a player, coach, commentator, and league executive, he presented an arguable case for expansion. Summarizing it in such a way that it is easier to understand, he saw that there is a surplus of players, which means more teams mean more games. More games mean more exposure. And more games mean less practice. Well, according to him anyway. Which he said these are better for player health and welfare. He also said the league could maximize the availability of other platforms if there are more teams in the league. We may add that other reforms and changes are only possible if the league opens itself to expansion. Also, more teams might mitigate the bad effects of the lack of parity, which we mentioned in the first video of this series. New teams could also generate interest among fans. Yang Yao, for his part, was lobbying for a 15-team league. Coach Yang's points may be compelling, but the league has been cold to the idea, and the PBA has neither formally replied nor answered to what was raised by the great tactician. When the PBA faced a challenge in the late 90s from the Metropolitan Basketball Association, the league relaxed its eligibility rules on half-blood Filipinos. Though it resulted in the so-called PhilSham controversy, the league in general benefited from the influx. It resulted in more available talent that increased interest among fans, and it also increased competitiveness among players, making games much more exciting. However, because of the controversy, the league adopted stringent measures. They put a limit on the number of half-blood Filipinos per team. With the internationalization of the game, the talent could come from anywhere. It is where the need for league expansion that comes into play. More teams mean more players, right? Which would mean more talent. In the NBA, a player must spend at least a year in college or must be at least 18 years old. The PBA is more unforgiving because of its stricter rules. A player must be at least 22 years old or must spend 2 years of college if he wants to be drafted. With this, the PBA deprived themselves of available talent. A case in point is Kai Sotto. Full of potential, he is ineligible to play in the PBA. As a result, he took his talents outside the country to prepare for his NBA dream. It is possible that there are others like Kai out there, and the PBA must relax its rules on eligibility and fill foreigners if they still want to be the prime destination for younger players. Don't get us wrong. To be drafted in the league may still be the dream for most of our players. But the league must start capitalizing on the increasing popularity of basketball worldwide. It seems that the PBA has been content with becoming the dominant league in the country. But with leagues from Korea, Australia, and Japan attracting our players, they might soon attract local fans as well. People nowadays not just rely on TV to watch games, but they also have social media platforms. It will be easy for many of us to watch games from other countries where Filipino talent is being showcased. A lot of people watch PBA games through these channels. It is high time that the league looks beyond TV because of other available platforms to extend their reach and widen their fan base, and perhaps earn from it. The league has been in existence for more than 4 decades, but it is still yet to make headway with fans outside the country. The PBA must explore other options now that basketball is becoming a popular sport not only in the region, but also worldwide. If the leagues outside the country continue attracting our players, don't you think it is high time that we attract other players as well? The PBA has always been attracting American NBA caliber imports, so why not try to lure those from Europe? Maybe it's also worth revisiting the plan of getting Asian hoopers as well. Fans love great imports, and having them is always a good way of upgrading the quality of play short of sending our players abroad. I just said that maybe the PBA should revive also the idea of Asian imports. Or how about those Europeans or Latin Americans? Aren't we already seeing Africans in the collegiate scene? Or the idea of guest teams, which were a part of PBA attraction before. Why not have it again as a way of increasing competition? Maybe this could also attract some fans, right? You know, maybe these suggestions have already reached the PBA. Maybe not. Probably the league has better ideas. But what are we saying is that the PBA must not be contented with where they are, with what they have, unlike old times. They must make sure that the best players play and stay in the league, and that the fans always have something to watch and cheer for. The PBA has responded to controversies by tweaking some rules. One of those was allowing players to become free agents after spending 7 years in the league. More recently, they also increased the level of salaries a rookie might receive from his team. However, the problem is that a rookie will remain a restricted free agent for 7 years. It does not give him enough freedom. Overall, we believe that these changes give more harm than good to the PBA. On the other hand, these are the steps in the right direction, that the league is doing something to address some issues. With the PBA facing challenges both inside and outside, we are hopeful that the league might be eventually forced to institute some changes to improve and adapt to the situation that targets the overall betterment of the league. They need to address certain issues such as parity, competitive salary, player attraction and retention, lack of league expansion, and media mileage. They need to listen to the fans both on the ground as well as on social media. It is where they should start, but it comes from the top. Maybe that too needs to be changed. Thanks for watching, guys, and we hope you enjoyed this 3-part series on the PBA. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell to be updated on the latest videos on sports and video gaming right here on Game High. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until the next one, guys, stay safe, and we'll see you around.